Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel called Zuzana Reacts, where I learn all about India with your hope and share my Central European Slovak point of view on everything that I see. And in today's video, we are going to look into reaction to Jaishankar's reaction to what George Soros had to say about India. I think this has gone pretty viral a couple of months ago, so I only got around to it today, but let's see what I think about this one. And yet again, as I mentioned, I'm very apolitical. I don't really have much of a political background, so just take it from that point of view, please. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Um, Focused on democracy and furthering democracy and different forms of democracy. There are occasional comments that we see on the undermining of democracy in India, most recently in the context of the BBC. And just yesterday at the Munich Security Conference, George Soros spoke on many issues, but specifically on open and closed societies, and called on institutions.
So before we dive into his question, I would like to see and understand, how do you perceive democracy is being like in India? How what is your notion of that? Please pop it in the comment section below.
Reform in India. How do you, as Foreign Minister of India, explain this when you're dealing with your Quad ministers in particular, as well as others?
Well, look, I actually made 2 points. One, how the world is changing. It is rebalancing. It is less Euro-Atlantic.
I think he has the right point there. I think that the power balance in the world is definitely changing, and I think he's right in calling it out.
I don't think everybody gets that. I think
I
old
think that's
habits die
true.
hard. I mean, very candidly, there are still people in the world who believe that their definition, their preferences, their views must override everything else.
I think he's very right. I think that no one, that's just a massive generalization from my end. As you go on your life, I don't think you pay, at least I don't, pay that much attention to politics. But if you do, you will start realizing that the power balance is really shifting. And actually, I don't want to say it's shifting in favor of India, but definitely India is becoming a really, really big player. And perhaps, the old establishment is not maybe happy seeing that, and this is why obviously they would be pushing their own narratives, which is only understandable, right? And I think that's what Mr. Jaishankar is calling out here.
So since you mentioned this specific example, I don't know how familiar people are with what was said at the Munich conference. Essentially, Mr. Soros said India is a democratic country, but he doesn't think the Prime Minister of India is a Democrat.
So this is a very interesting statement. Why do you think that statement has been made by George Soros? It almost doesn't even matter that it was George Soros, who, by the way, is originally from Hungary, which is bordering with Slovakia, which used to rule Slovakia for centuries, by the way. So I would love to know how do you perceive your president?
By the way, a few years ago, in the same conference, I was there at that time, he actually accused us of planning to strip millions of Muslims of their citizenship, which of course didn't happen. It was a ridiculous suggestion. But you have to understand what this actually means. I could take a view that the individual in question, Mr. Soros, is a old, rich, opinionated person.
I can't believe he's not that old, rich, opinionated person
Sitting in New York, who still thinks that his views should determine how the entire world works. Now, if I
#savage Mr. Jaishankar.
I could only stop at old, rich, and opinionated, I would put it away. But he's old, rich, opinionated, and dangerous. Because what happens is when such people and such views. And
so one more question for you guys. So do you like, what is your view on George Soros? Like, how much do you know about him? Are you in favor? What do you think? Because it feels like your guy is not so much in his favor. So would be curious to hear about what you have to say in the comments below.
Such organizations, they actually invest resources in shaping narratives. I spoke about globalization. Now, what globalization does is it actually creates a lot of the seamlessness of globalization, which creates all the opportunities, also allows narratives to be shaped, money to come in, foundations to go about their agenda.
I think what he's saying here is completely on point when it comes to globalization. There obviously, like everything in this universe, everything has its positive and a negative polarity. There is good and bad in everything. That's just kind of how the world works.
Now, in this particular case, I mean, it is very clear that he has very strong political preferences. He actually thinks that, I mean, doesn't matter that this is a country of 1.4 billion people, we're almost there, whose vote.
I mean, you got to admire his nonchalance and, the way he delivers the message. I'm a big fan. You guys already know that I'm a big fan.
Voters decide how the country should run. He actually thinks, well, if, and again, I cite him as an extreme example. Okay. But there are other, manifestations of this in different countries where people like him think an election is good if the person we want to see wins. If the election throws up a different outcome, then we actually will say it's a flawed democracy. This to my and the beauty is all this is done under the pretense of advocacy of open society, of transparency, etc.
So, by the way, did you know that the open society is actually forbidden in Russia? I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. I know that this is a George Soros' organization, but it's been excommunicated out of Russia.
So, our generation, we have grown up with concepts like regime change, which influence operations. Now, you can call it what you will. I mean, to me, this really looks the same with a gloss of some kind of do-goodism on it.
So, do-goodism, LOL, this guy is hilarious.
So for me, it's actually necessary today that we have today a serious conversation on democracy.
Fair enough.
When I look at my own democracy, I mean, I have today a voter turnout which is unprecedented, electoral outcomes which are decisive, electoral processes which are not questioned. We are not one of those countries where after the election somebody goes to arbitrate in court. Okay, we don't have any hanging chads either, and where you actually say, I will sit in judgment over the verdict of voters. Now, my sense of democracy is the voters are supposed to decide. And
fair enough.
It worries us. It worries us because, look, we are a country which went through colonialism. We know the dangers of what happens when there's outside interference in whatever guise in your politics. If you do this kind of scaremongering, like millions of people will be deprived of citizenship, it actually does real damage to our societal fabric.
I think he's right there. I think he's just calling out all the right facts. I cannot not agree with him.
Because somebody out there believes you, and you don't leave it to accident, by the way, you back it up with an operation. So you create that kind of fear psychosis, and then you use that to validate your original judgment. So I do think today between, whose democracy, whose globalization, why, the transparency of how global processes work. These are real issues which need to be debated.
yet again, I really like this guy. I can't help myself. I think he's really trying to speak facts. He's trying to be as much objective as he can be, and calling out some, I think, important things that many other people would be maybe not so comfortable calling out. So overall, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can share any of your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, and give the thumbs up to the video if you liked it. And I hope to see you in the next one. You take care. Bye.